Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is presented to you by Losico. So, today again, we will be covering the newspapers for 20th and 21st of December, that is Saturday and the Monday for the day. So, these are the articles that we'll be discussing today. So, there wasn't any at length article from yesterday's newspapers, but there is a point that we'll be covering in News in Flash. So, the first one is The Right Call, which is from The Hindu. So this article discusses about the very step that has been taken by the Supreme Court in order to stop any kind of infringement that was taking place, and we'll be discussing about how important the separation of powers is. So what the Supreme Court did and under what rights of the Supreme Court it has been taking this step, we'll be discussing in this article. And the second one is stopping the slide of healthcare in India. So this, as we know that healthcare has been much discussed till date, but still this article offers various new points that we should be investing into for having a good healthcare system in India. And finally, we have the News and Flash column. So if in case you're also preparing for judicial services examination, you can definitely check out the Lord of the courses, which is Judiciary Test Prep course from Losico. The link to this course is available in the description box below. And from the landing page, you can download free study material for your own preparation as well. We're also excelling into various other courses like CLAT, All India Bar Exam, SEBI, etc. You can have a look at them too. So this is a multiple choice question from yesterday's, that is Saturday's discussion. SolarWinds hack has been a major cyber attack in which country? So it has been one of its kind and one of the biggest cyber attacks seen by this country. So your options are China, India, USA, or Japan. You can write down your answer in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question from the content that we'll be discussing today. Mention the issues with the public healthcare system in India. How can these issues be addressed? Explain. So once we're done with today's article, it'll be a wholesome study of the entire issue. So with this, let's understand the first article, The Right Call, which talks about the judicial overreach. Now, as we know that there is a concept which is very much welcome and celebrated is the concept of judicial activism, wherein many times the court takes the suo motu cognizance, that is a cognizance or a complete attention on its own, and it brings out very important, discussions at the forefront. Very recently, the entire issue of the migrants, wherein they had to be brought back to their homes and they had no money, no food, and they were highly on the verge of catching the coronavirus. At this time, the courts in India, the Supreme Court specifically, took the judicial activism and it took the suo motu cognizance to help the migrant workers. But as we know that excess of everything is dangerous and it is not something that that we'll always reap benefits from. Similar is a problem that we face is of the judicial overreach. Now in judicial overreach, what happens is that many a times the court, any court of law, now it may be the High Court or even the Supreme Court as well, it might intrude into a matter that per se specifically does not fall under its ambit. Now, in such a situation, when the court tries to get into itself into such matters, we call it as the judicial overreach. So what recently has happened is that the Supreme Court has stayed the decision or the order of Andhra Pradesh High Court that sought to convene a judicial inquiry into whether there is a constitutional breakdown in the state or not. Now, due to some political issues or the tyranny that is going on over there, it was the Andhra Pradesh High Court that ordered that there should be a judicial inquiry to take place into whether any kind of constitutional breakdown is taking place in the state in the real sense or not. But the Supreme Court has finally put a stay on the order of Andhra Pradesh High Court and it remarked it as disturbing before staying the order. Now, what we need to understand here is that how much power is the High Court endowed in the real sense to actually get any kind of judicial inquiry done to inspect whether or not the constitutional breakdown is going on in the state. So that is why let's understand that what was the legality of the High Court's order. So the question of constitutional breakdown, which is actually mentioned under Article 356, under which we have the President's rule under the rules of emergency in the Constitution. So it is under the prerogative of the executive and not the judiciary. So what are the situations when the emergency, and if we talk specifically about the President's rule, it comes up. So if at all there cannot be a proper maintenance of law and order in a particular state and the executive is not able to control the entire situation, so that is considered to be a situation of emergency and thus President's rule is brought into any state. So that is why, to decide whether or not any kind of constitutional breakdown has taken place is the prerogative, or it is the initiative to be taken by the executive and not the judiciary. So in the very first place, it was totally outside the ambit of control and jurisdiction of the Andhra Pradesh High Court to have ordered this judicial inquiry. And then Supreme Court, in the very famous case that we have regarding the separation of powers, in the SR Bomai case, it said that Article 356 is it allowed imposition of president rule with stringent conditions for valid exercise of the power. So it is not like that every now and then you can easily apply president's rule in any particular state. There have to be very stringent conditions that need to be fulfilled before it. For example, the proclamation of Union Council of Ministers is necessary, proclamation to be passed by both houses of the parliament, and whether objective conditions exist rendering impossible to carry out governance of that state. Now, it needs to be made sure that the conditions are such that it is completely impossible to carry out governance in that particular state. And if at all there is a chance that governance can be taken up, so definitely it would not complete, or it would not suffice the requirements for the president rule, and then this emergency would not be put up. So the steps that are needed to be done by the Supreme Court are that order an internal inquiry into the CM's letter and clearly nullify High Court's order to ensure such actions impinging separation of power in the state is not repeated. So this is really important, and this is Article 355. So this was all for this article. Let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about larger picture of the healthcare in India. So the COVID-19 pandemic has revealed the mismatch between the overwhelming presence of the poor public health system and private healthcare system that runs on greed. Now, as we know, in India, what image do the private hospitals and the public hospitals have in the minds of the people? Many a times when we think about a public hospital or the government hospital, we believe that the doctors would not be responsible, they might not be coming on time, the basic medicines or the treatments would not be available, the ward boys or nurses would not be very careful towards the conditions of the patient. So all in all, but one thing that comes as a plus point is that it would be cheap and affordable. On the other hand, when we talk about the private hospitals in India, we have an image in our mind that private hospitals will render better services, the doctors would be probably more equipped, they would be more trained, the nurses would be better off, and the other thing that comes into our mind is that they will definitely be very expensive and not affordable to most of the citizens in the country. So that is why this mismatch or imbalance that exists between the public and private healthcare system in India has completely been highlighted under the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, definitely, as we know that the private healthcare system, they run mostly on greed, because obviously had they had any wish to cater to the society or do any kind of philanthropy or social service, they wouldn't have had rates of even basic medicines and basic treatments that to be so high. But unfortunately, that is the case in our country as well. So let's understand that what is the current status of the healthcare system in India. Firstly, the demand is created by homogenizing all sub-markets such as preventive, general, specialist, emergency, and remedial services. Thus, inducement is the norm and exploitation is inevitable. Now, what happens is in India that we when we talk about the healthcare, so there are various steps that are there, included in the healthcare. Some measures are preventive, like for example, nowadays we use the sanitizers, we clean our hands more often, we use masks, etc. So these are all the preventive measures in order to prevent catching the coronavirus. Then there are some general things like we should be eating well, we should take care of our health, we should exercise and stuff like that. And even if we have just a normal fever or a normal flu, so it completely comes into general. Now, when we talk about specialists, like for example, there is a person who's suffering from some kind of a brain tumor or something, who needs a proper brain or a neurosurgeon or a neurologist to study the entire thing. So that is how we need these specialists. Now, emergency, obviously, in the case of accident or whenever we have lack of time, and the remedial services, wherein long-term treatments are required. Like for example, for cancer, for tuberculosis, etc., long-term treatments are required. So basically, what is the ideal case is that for all these available things, or all these steps that are there, or all these kinds of healthcare that are there, we should be having different, institutions or different bodies that cater to this. But in India, what do we do is that we homogenize all these sub markets, and due to which what happens is a confusion is created in the minds of the patients as well, and they're not even able to clarify the entire stages of their treatment, and they tend to pay more, and exploitation is very common in this regard. So next is that the private hospitals gain under the social insurance scheme. So many a times, because they use a lot of these schemes and other things, like for example, what happens is even when we get to do a lot of health insurances, so when we try to get them encashed in the hospitals, so what they tend to do is, like for example, your treatment deserved only an entire amount of rupees 50,000. But as soon as they realize that this person has already done a health insurance, they will tend to take a lot of money from that person, as in, because they know that ultimately the person would also not have any problem, since the insurance company would end up paying the entire bill. So what they do is that the treatment was only for rupees 50,000, but they'll make uselessly they'll make the bill for about a lakh or a lakh or more than that as well, because they know that the insurance company would be paying, and due to this, the entire money goes into their black account. Then, the combination of insurance and private healthcare allows private hospitals to expand the bill, the point as we just discussed, without attending the best interest of the patient. So, what they focus totally is upon the expanding the bill rather than providing the real healthcare or the actual healthcare to that particular patient. So then consumption is high for services. So with supplier induced demand and ones provided by doctors and hospitals with superior knowledge. So as we know, that we have a huge consumption of services now, be it for the doctors or the nurses or the midwiferys and other related services. So there is huge consumption of services, and I guess only a day or two before we discussed that India has been suffering with the workforce of the laborers of the nurses and midwiferys and even doctors as well, and that is why there is huge demand for them, but we're not able to fulfill this particular demand. So here is some relevant data. 85% of the population of India cannot afford high-cost corporate private healthcare. Now imagine a person who works for 300 or 400 rupees per day, and how do we expect him that he will be able to afford a bill that would be coming from hospitals like Max, Vedanta, Escorts, etc. And we know that the primary of the services are available in such private hospitals only, and that is why we know that 85% of population cannot really afford such high cost healthcare. So out of the 12 crore card holders under Ayushman Bharat, only 1.27 crore have claimed the benefits, and rest probably they don't even know how to reap the benefits from the Ayushman scheme, and or maybe they're exploited to such extent that they are not able to make proper use of it. And then we have an 80 to 20 rule ratio, that 20% can afford the modern healthcare, 40% cannot, and other 40% pay with difficulty. So that is the current scenario that is existent in the Indian healthcare system. Now let's see that what are the steps needed to improve this healthcare regime. Firstly, increase the number of doctors. Yes, of course. So with counterpart obligations to serve in rural areas. What happens is that one person who has completed his degree in medicine, so he also wishes that he would be catering to a better or to a place where he gets better returns for his education, where he's paid better, where he has basic services to live on to. And many times they definitely don't want to go to any kind of rural areas to practice, unless obviously they have some social service gut into themselves. But obviously, if we have a better number of doctors in the country, so we'll be able to deploy a lot to the rural areas as well, and this will also reduce the burden of patients on one particular doctor. So the result is uncertain with better career options in private sector. So we should revive the licentiate medical practitioners as existed before the independence. But this was also a kind of position or the kind of degree that could be available to a person for practicing medicine. But we later on we actually brought or discontinued the very licentiate system. But I think the author says in here that he thinks that it can be brought in now as well. So empower graduates of BSc in nursing to be nursing practitioner. So the ratio of 0.6 nurses per doctor versus WHO's 3 nurses per doctor. So in the current scenario, the World Health Organization says that for every doctor, we should have 3 nurses working for him. But in India, currently we only have 0.6, which is actually not even one whole nurse working for a single particular doctor. And that is why we should make we should allow the nursing in BSc course holders or graduates to be be practicing nurses as well. So this system is actually prevalent in many countries, and it will help to deal with the cases independently in government facilities under to in the understaffed primary healthcare centers. As we know that if you visit a government hospital, many a times you will not even find one proper nurse working in there. So it is totally understaffed, and a greater number of nurses would definitely help much. So then finally, we should increase the public health center's budget by 3 times. So because we know that the population has been ever increasing in the country. So that is why we need to we need to invest more into this direction. This is a small flowchart that gives you an understanding of the healthcare system in India. So we have the primary, secondary, and tertiary level. At the primary, we have the sub-centers and PHCs, which are the primary health centers. At the secondary level, we have the community health center. And at the tertiary level, we have the hospitals and medical colleges. Let's see what do we have for news in flash. Himalayan trillium. So it is a common herb of the Himalayas. This is how it looks. Recently declared as endangered by the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. So it is one of the most traded commercial plants of Himalayan region due to its high medicinal quality and value. So it is found in the temperate and subalpine zones of Himalaya at an altitude of 2,400 to 400 meters. And the countries wherein the Himalayan trillium is found are India, Bhutan, Nepal, China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, basically all the countries through which the Himalayas run. And secondly, Maharashtra Shakti Criminal Law Maharashtra Amendment Bill 2020. So this is the Shakti Bill which has been named and which is actually brought in Maharashtra. So it is actually focuses a lot on women's security and safety, as it provides for a severe penalty including death for rape, acid attack, and serious sexual assault of children, and swifter punishment. And then to set up a police teams and 36 special courts, each having a special public prosecutor. So you can go through these points, and these are the relevant sections, 376 for rape, etc., that deal with this thing. Even the POCSO Act is covered under it. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good and informative session for you all. If in case you would like to download the PDF of these slides for today's discussion, you can join our Telegram group. The link to this Telegram group is available in the description box as well. Also, you can visit our official website for any other information. Thank you so much.